Hi, welcome. My name is John Freitag. I'm a licensed insurance broker with Freitag Family Agency. And my special guests here today are Mindy Haggerty and Brian Quigley with Keller Williams. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Brian and Mindy, and let you give a little bit of an introduction and tell us about yourselves and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, John. We really appreciate being here today. And Mindy and I are senior real estate specialists with Keller Williams. And we started about 7 years ago. Mindy joined with me about, 4 years ago, right, Mindy?
4 years.
4 years. Time flies when you're having fun. So we dominantly help seniors sell homes. 95% of our past 58 transactions over the last 12 months were seniors listings to help them get the house ready to sell, to move to community, to downsize, whether it's independent living or assisted living, or even just an apartment living to kind of get out of the big house that they don't need anymore.
Did you say 98%, Brian?
95.
That's amazing. I didn't realize, I knew you worked with seniors a lot. I didn't realize it was that. Wow.
And it's grown. I think 7 years ago, it was probably a 60-40, but this past year and with the focus, and I'll turn that over to Mindy on the focus part, talking about how she orchestrates and helps and pulls together a lot of things and why it's important to hire a senior real estate specialist.
Yeah. Well, I just want to touch on that. Yeah. I think that 5% of the buyers or sellers that we have that aren't seniors, it's just because they're family, friends. We have to do what you have to do. But the focus is really, this specialty, because we love what we do. And it's different and there's a need for it. So yeah, I like that. But sometimes you have to help your families buy a new house. So you do that. So anyway, I forget what my question was, but
we were talking about how you orchestrate everything and you.
Okay. So yeah, so that's kind of what's different about it. So typically, you might meet a buyer and they tell you their needs and wants. This is different. We usually meet, a senior, maybe they've already made the decision that they're going to move, out of the state with a child, or they're going to move to an assisted living, or like Brian said, they're going to downsize because the house is just too much to take care of. And we're kind of going in and assessing the needs, where they are in the process and what they need. And then it's really soup to nuts. So, and everybody's a little different. Sometimes, someone has family that's going to help them downsize. Sometimes someone has nothing at all. So, we'll step in right there and help them find, where the stuff's going to go, where can we donate it? Where can we, who's going to help do the clean out? And I'll be there through the whole thing. If you want me, just today is what I'm doing later, is just actually going there to facilitate, because my senior has trouble going up and down her 3 floors. And I want to be there to make sure the junk guys don't take anything that they shouldn't. And then we're going to get you all the way to the end. And even as far as seniors don't have to go, well, no one has to go to settlement. A seller doesn't have to go to settlement anymore. So we sign all the papers at the table ahead of time. We bring a traveling notary, and then Brian or I go to settlement for you, and the money just gets wired into your account. Or if you don't want to do that, we'll bring the check to you wherever you are. So kind of just it's so much stress and so much to move your home, especially when you've been in it for so long. For anybody, it's really a hard undertaking. So we try to just take as much, on our backs as possible, so that, they can deal with what's important to them. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's great. I know we were talking before we even started recording here, and just saying how stressful buying a home is, and we bought our house about 7 years ago, and it was just the biggest headache I've ever had, because there's so many moving parts. You're trying to make sure everything's working out. You have a lot of money on the table, and it's just stressful. And I mean, to be in a home for, sometimes I guess people have been in there, 30, 40, 50 years, right? And you've had so many things you've accumulated. You have a lot of memories. So add that on top of all the stressors of moving and trying to find somewhere else. It's amazing that you're able to help them orchestrate everything and be that extra family member almost.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And that's how I ended up getting into the business, because my very first client was in her 80s, and she wanted to, she actually was in a 55 and wanted out of there because she didn't feel like she was old enough to be there. But, I realized right then and there, even though she had her own daughter, it was like her daughter had a job and, things to do. So I was there, and it's like digging up plants that are important, like all different things that you didn't expect a realtor to do. That's what, that's what's important. So That's exactly what we do. And Brian has a story, he got into this because his uncle, how long was Uncle Jimmy in his house? Like
72 years. He was born in the house and
Yeah.
sold it when he was 72. It was my grandparents' house. And the same thing happened then. The light bulb went on that, we need to become problem solvers or situational solvers of issues. And what's interesting about that and exciting about that and benefits our clients is that then we were able to find the people that can help and orchestrate that. So forming the organization Paths, the Professional Alliance to Help Seniors of Montgomery County, that's a group of 18 professionals that really plug in and help with all of these things because we're only two people, right? And our specialty is to sell your home for the highest amount of money in the shortest amount of time. But we organically grew this just by meeting people and knowing the needs and knowing the desires and knowing the solutions that needed to happen. And that's kind of what Paths is a solution for seniors. So that was a great thing that we did about 2 years ago. And there's one of Bucks County and one of Montgomery County. And that just really kind of solidified our goals and our ideas and how we can move forward. And I think when you say 95% is extraordinary in terms of listings, that is, but it's really the help of Paths and it's the help of those professional partners that push that percentage.
Yeah. And thank you for inviting Steph and I to join recently. So
yeah, you guys are doing great. Really doing good.
Thanks.
It's a good fit because, folks need the same things.
It's a good fit. What I love about our group is when we get together, like every time I get rejuvenated because everyone has a passion and compassion for what they do. It's not just like, this is, I gotta go to work today. This is like, oh, I'm helping someone and you can see everyone's face light up. So I know if I have to have you call I don't have to worry. Like I know that you're going to treat them just like your family member. And that's what I love about our group. So
yeah, it's nice and it's not transactional. And, we're trying to reach seniors and we're trying to reach their caregivers and we're trying to help them understand what's out there, because I think sometimes that's the biggest hurdle is just getting the information out there. Once you're in front of them, you're able to help them out. But if they don't know you exist, then they're never able to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So that's awesome that you're able to walk everyone through there. It's amazing seeing how many people you actually have, 95% seniors. Do you have any stories that stick out, any recent sales or anything that you really?
Oh, we have stories, right?
Oh, sure.
Sometimes I think sometimes we go into communities and we do seminars and we talk about the market and, what's going on and, what's the steps are and what the pitfalls are of selling your home, things like that. But I think sometimes when we start storytelling, it's when everyone's like, oh, they've done this before. Like, because everyone's looking around their house like, oh, I'll never get out of here. Like I have this, I have that. I always make a joke. Like we sold a home for a lady who had goats, donkeys, and a horse. Like they were senior goat, horse, donkey, and we had to find
the house. Like were they part of the sale or?
They did end up being part of the sale, but part of the deal of her selling was we have to find homes for them. So then all of a sudden we became like home finders for senior pets.
And now you can add that to your list. Now it's not going to be a new problem. You run into it again, you'll know how to do it.
Exactly.
And that's what experience gives you, right?
Right. I got this. No problem. Yep.
Yeah, we just moved goats last week. We can do elephants, whatever comes across. Yeah.
Yeah, the stories really are great. All of our clients, have been through so much and have great stories of their own. At the end, you're kind of all of it's storytelling. Like they're telling their stories of the past, they're telling stories of present, and then we hopefully help them with the future story of where they're going to go and end up with folks of like stories and like times. And, 99% of the time it ends up really, really well. And that 1%, if there is a 1% that doesn't end well, it's not that it didn't end well. It's maybe, that they were looking at it like an expectation of a different sort of outcome. But when they get to the community, they call us later, 90 days later or 120 days later and say, I should have done this sooner. I should have done this 6 months ago or 6 years ago. So it's just this short term, maybe expectations weren't met, but then they realize once they assimilate and get into a clique and a group at the community that, oh, wow, I should have done this 6 months ago.
Yeah, and their communities aren't for everyone, but for the people who are there, who like the socialization, who like the camaraderie, I mean, they definitely are great because I mean, we go to the same facilities, we visit them, and we meet people, and I mean, they make friends fast, you know, and there's so much stuff to do.
Yeah.
If you were moving right now, right, if you had a house and you were thinking about selling it, right now, from what I understand, the prices are high, so you could sell in, and these communities are still trying to incentivize the move-in, right? So are you getting more bang for your buck these days, or what do you think about that?
I do think that's true. I think you're still selling houses at a higher price, and even higher relative to what a lot of our seniors paid for the home. Like, it's interesting that if you've owned the house 41 or 51 or 61 years, or even 20 years, you could be double, triple, quadruple what you
At
paid
least.
for it.
Yeah.
And you still have buyers helping you out of it. A lot of times a buyer will say, oh, just leave, that stuff in the garage or that stuff in the basement. So there's so many value adds that Mindy and I can negotiate for a senior. And on the other side, there's incentives for them to move into community. So yeah, it's no question one of the best times as a senior to sell your home.
Yeah. Even though, I mean, there's talk of, things changing or whatnot, but I think you're right, Brian. Like, a lot of the seniors, we had a heyday the last year, and senior bought their house for $11,000 and now selling it for $250,000. And it's just, it's mind blowing. That was a lot of fun, but regardless of whether they would now sell that house for, 189, it's still a great asset, and you still lived in it. It still served its purpose for all those years. So yeah, I think it's, still such a good time to sell, and the inventory is still low. So families still need to buy homes. Yep.
Yeah, so they have the upper hand, and you can help them maximize what they're going to be getting for it. And then they get to live off of that money again. Like you said, they already got to live in the house, and now you can put it towards a community if that's what you want to do, or put it towards another house.
Exactly. Or build an in-law suite on your, kid's house if you want to, whatever that may be. But I think the fact that we have helped so many seniors, when we know the pain points. So when we do get offers coming in, or even one offer, before it even passes the senior, gets presented, we're saying, like, here's a hardship, like the house is full of stuff, would you mind, and then that's off the plate. So I don't know if a lot of agents would consider that, or understand the hardship, or understand, well, the move-in date for the community is supposed to be this, but we know that it might take a little longer. We want that flexibility, just so that the senior has more power behind what's happening. They're not going to feel like they're homeless, or, now I only have 30 days to get rid of, 50 years worth of stuff. Like, we address that from the get-go. So.
And we've also done lease backs where maybe they needed the extra month, but the buyer wanted to lock a rate and know that it was their house. So lease it back for a month. And then that gives the senior that extra 30 days to either get rid of some stuff or take the stuff they need. So we're really good at, Mindy's done that, a couple times now this year, where we leased back to just take that pressure off.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I think I've heard of that before, but I never actually heard of any scenario that it was used. That's neat. Does it help them if they're locking in a rate or anything, if their mortgage or?
Sure, yeah. Like if you needed 90 days, you only have a 60-day rate lock. So if the buyer wants to lock that rate, but the senior needs all 90 days, you just do a simplistic 1 month lease back. It doesn't really cause any problems, within a month's time. You can buy a home warranty for the house. There's a lot of insulation and insurances you can put in place to help them bridge that gap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, it's great to have someone who's done these before. They know how to think outside the box and solve some problems. You have that great connections with Paths. You talked about building an in-law suite. I know there's a builder, right, in Paths.
Sure.
So you can hook them up with that. Are a lot of people moving in with their in-laws versus going into a independent living? What do you see the trends being like?
I think there's, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say, what do you think, like 5%, Brian, are moving in with kids?
Yeah, it's pretty low.
And a lot of times I think if the kids are out of state, that then they'll move in with, kids that are out of state, or at least for temporary until they find something. But and a lot of times, obviously, it's just important to be around your family. So you pick a community that's, near your family. So yeah, you see it all.
Yeah. we're fortunate enough, we're next door to my parents. So, you know, it's great. I mean, it's great for my kids. You know, they go over and hang out with my parents on the weekends, and my son goes and gets a second breakfast, he calls it. Hang out with
Nice.
yeah. So, I mean, if a senior has a home and they're not that close to their kids, and it helps, they can build an in-law suite, they can sell their house, build an in-law suite, and they get that relationship there where they might not otherwise have it.
Right.
Sure.
And they get to watch kids grow up. And yeah, I think it's if you like your parents or your in-laws, I think it's a great thing. It's, you know, very symbiotic relationship. So yeah.
Even with that, everybody loves Raymond, you know, it still worked for them. So, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if anyone had any questions, if anyone wanted to reach out to you and to contact you, what's the best way to do it?
Best way is our cell phones. You can try the cell phone on Pat's, and the cell phone for our team is my number, 215-266-4321. We like to work directly with cell phone numbers. And if I'm jammed up, I text Mindy and say, hey, give this client a quick call back. That way you're not going through, you know, the office channel of trying to find us. We just pick up our cell phone and we call back the same day. 8 out of 10 times we probably answer it unless we're in an appointment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like talking on the phone rather than shooting texts over and the email.
Especially seniors, And I do too. I mean, I'd rather talk to you real quick. I can say, and you know, because I talk fast, and you know,
you get the point across, and if there's another question, and you can kind of cover things faster by calling.
It's the truth. And text, you know, how things get mixed in text, but we also are, you know, and then we'll make an appointment and we're seeing you in person, you're signing your documents. We sit there and we go through the documents. It can take an hour, it can take as long as you want, and we can get as to much detail. We're not sending you your documents, DocuSign, click, click, click. Like, we're letting you know exactly what you're signing, because these are documents probably that someone didn't even exist, you know, even 10 years ago. It's, you know, this thick now. So we go through it nice and slow, you know, at their pace. And I think that's different too, because I think a lot of, you know, everything's just like, oh, you know, trust me, click, click, click. But you know,
No, I remember signing. And like, don't worry about it, just sign it. Like, I guess, okay. But you mentioned that seniors don't have to be there for the closing. Are they allowed to be there if they want to be? Because I think we've talked about it before, where they like to share the information about the house and their stories, and you know, hear about the family that's moving in.
There's great settlements. We have great settlements when they can and want to be there. It usually turns into a party.
Oh yeah, so great. I think I posted like the last one where the couples came. They were sitting across from each other, and they were similarly dressed, like the husband and the wife and the wife. And it was just a love fest. It was just like, I had chills the whole time. The title clerk had chills the whole time. You know, it was just one of those moments where, you know, it was hard for them. They loved this home and they built it, and everything was custom, but the kids moving, I say kids, but you know, young adults moving in, just appreciated everything and all the questions they ask. And it was, sometimes it's amazing. And sometimes, you know, someone just rather not be there, and, you know, and that's fine too. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And thanks for everything that you do for the community, for the seniors, and just helping connect everyone. So,
thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if anyone has any questions, reach out to Brian, reach out to Mindy. They're an awesome resource. I'm sure they'd be happy to help. And if there's something that they can't do, they'll point you in the right direction. So thank you again.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.